Hello everybody, and today we're going to talk about cover up, because I have no videos on my channel about it, but actually that's why I didn't do that. I don't want to have any kind of experience with bad tattoos, but today, to make some different content, I'd like to make it, to do cover up and show you how to do that right, how to do that correct, beautiful and professionally. Probably a lot of you would like to rework and to fix mistakes that you did. So I took a tattoo for cover up, not for repairing. I don't want to remake it. I want to cover it up and do that really beautifully. So I didn't find anything really beautiful for camera, like beautiful picture, but I found something, average difficulty cover up, that is flowers without any kind of outlines, because it's kind of really gift. Because it's really difficult and complicated to cover up the outline. But here we have actually smooth, really blurred tints that could be some kind of basement for another tattoo, for our new tattoo. So here we have a rose. I'd like to, an idea to cover colors, colorful flowers with another flowers. Some kind of red rose here and blue flower here. But one moment I began to draw this rose here, that is more clear variant for final tattoo. I just schematically would like to show you it. So I'd like to put something down there to the bottom, because compositionally that is made wrong, because we have here this part and only this area is occupied. So free space here and here, that is not actually good, it doesn't work. So I'd like to cover it up with some kind of leaves or other things like here. Plus, additionally, I'd like to put some kind of brush here with kind of diamond and some beads around. Compositionally, it really look better. And this rope here going to the bottom, some backwards going. It'll be really useful and simple decision. Cool idea for design to look really great. So we'll pull it up to the top and push it down to the bottom and fill every, empty space with some details. So now I'm going to transfer it to the skin. It's just impossibly to push it with usual transfer here, because you really need to put that leaf to another one, so it's just impossible. So I really need to do that, really carefully, and do that with my idea and put it partly there. Cut to the pieces and do that partly. So I put my rose here, and then I will draw everything manually. So look people, here when we have cover up, we have two varieties to do that. We have to put some darker tints up, upper the main tattoo we have, or the second variant to, find these tints that will be really fit to these tints we have. So I don't want to do something dark on the girl, because it won't look really feminative. So I'd like to put, the same colors to, like, red to red and green to green, so it would be really look great. So I don't want to think about, you don't need to think that if you have a red area here, so you need to work only here. You have to just, not go, right after the border you have, you don't need to put your red rose on the blue flower, because it won't look great. But you can really go further with those roses and flowers, whatever you want to make. So it definitely will show you all the difference without any kind of, really seen and trying to see what's going on wrong with this tattoo. So here we have really, free empty skin, clean, so we can't work it with there. So I'll push it right to the bottom, to the border, and going to work here, because I don't want to make this rose like that. I want to make it much bigger than it is right now. So the bigger object you can put on the area, the better. Because I have no reason to do that really little tattoos, like cute little tattoos, they really look not actually cool. I mean, it's not that case. If you do really mini tattoos, like really small figures, that really looks good, but here you don't need to do that smaller than I do. When you begin to transfer one thing to another, you really begin to see all those mistakes we have. So here, this 1 centimeter here, we have here green, and I don't need to. So here will be the brightest part on the left. So I actually cannot, cover it with the brighter color than it is. So it won't work. We have to delete it. So now it's better, much better. As you can see, we don't need to do this like on the previous design. Here we didn't use this part here. Actually, we can like do that kind of one leaf here, or probably I can put some green color here, because here is really empty and will be covered easily with the green one. So going to the shadow, I'd like to, pull everything onto the rose, and the rose should be on the foreground. But here it looks really good, so this border really harmonic to the form of the rose. And here we have another kind of problem, but it's really little, so, but for everything around it's not actually bad, so I can work with it. And I don't want to pay attention to this little thing. I try to put it really a lot of color there, a lot of paint, a lot of dye, and so I think it won't be as brown as it is now. So, but it won't work bad. Actually, at first, I thought that I should duplicate these berries and it would be great to add them somewhere in the bottom, but now I understand that everything just looks actually good and harmonic. I don't need to overload everything to congest with the berries. So before we get started, I'd like to show you on the skin where we will have these outlines and they will help us there. And in some places I don't want to make them some kind of these leaves. I don't want to, make there some kind of outlines, because I don't want to, for this tattoo, some kind of cartoonish look. So I'd like to, put the same form and leave it as it is. So it's really difficult with covering up while we work, not to mix everything up, not to ruin the tattoo with all kind of colors. So here one object and here in a brush, and they really take all the accent, take all the field of view. But at the same time, inside we will have this outline, but it won't be just black, it will be just dark red or just some kind of that. And here on the brush, on the decorative part, it will be like gray, because it's from metal. So I'd like to do this like steel color, some kind of gray. So, and that's why I won't do them black. So I finished outlining, nothing actually difficult here, but I was upset with the drawing. I tried to play over cannot actually help this rows. So the good example here, this line here going, if you can see on the camera, this gray line from transfer should be like that, but I continue it under its bottom, dark part, because I'd like to do that corner really dark red. So I didn't route it to this pedal. I'd like to do that under bottom, and this dark corner will be here. And lining from this dark tint is really helps us here, but in other places it actually doesn't help us. This line going through, closer parts to the further parts and to everything, and we'll try to cover it all with bright something. But we cover red with red, so I think it will work, and no difficulties can actually appear here. So red lining cannot actually spoil red color. I'd like to outline all this brush here and make some, curved, chaotic, glassy thing, and the rope comes here to the wrist and finishes our tattoo like that. I think really luckily placed to make this rope here, like from the top to the bottom. I'd like to, the main part of the drawing will be really visible in contrast here, and don't argue with the previous part. So, I colored almost everything, and now I want to show you, before we start with the last part, my thoughts about the rose. That is really clear how it closes, and I have no doubts, but I'd like to tell you about it. I didn't do what I started with on my laptop, so I tried to work with what we have here under our drawing. So I do everything here from the head, and it'll look like, from what was in a laptop, these parts that were actually bright on the pedals, because you cannot actually think over anything here. All the curves here, I'll try to brighten them really, really tight. I'd like to make them like here, but I cannot actually make it so. I'll try it to like more orange, orange with red, because lining here is like yellow and really warm, and I'm really afraid that they can actually be spoiled while held, so I'll try to work with orange. It's really easy to ink it. It will cover everything better than pink, because pink really has a lot of white in it, so I think it will really, let all these spots through it, and it won't work like that. So don't watch here, I'll finish and show you. So I almost finished everything, and here a couple of accents that I should explain you before we continue. You can use not only black outline to, make some accents to the drawing, you also can make it with bright outline. So we'll do all edges of every pedal here, almost every that is not curved, to show the thick of all these pedals, like through here and here, like little outlines, bright. It'll really make a good contrast here, and do this pedal sharp, really sharp. We can use this not only while covering up, also we can use that in usual tattoos, not only covering. So another moment here that I need to explain, that is dyes that I were using. So when I was warming the rose, I'll try to do this with red and orange. I have darker, usual red, and closer to orange. And then I didn't use white. I was mixing that red with this peach color. You can also use some kind of white with it, but the business is that while you use actually white you will use and get some kind of really pink, so we need something warm. That's why I use peach. That is, I like peach from world famous, so that is obvious warm tint that cannot actually lose this orange tint from this red. So I mix it with this peach to the red, and we will not get anything pink that we don't need. So these are all tints that we need. That is kind of these tints that looks like orange, but they kind of peachy. So we don't need to mix red with orange tints with white. It will look like pink. So that's what I got, some kind of flower. I don't know, likey or not, but in fact it closed what was under it, it covered, so you don't need to judge hastily soon, but because, you know, tattoo that is really covering something is just really random, so you shouldn't think that is not visible, that is covered. We should wait a couple of months, and if after it you will get that you're really satisfied with, you won't get any kind of lining from the previous tattoo, I hope it will work good. But like if you try to cover some really, you know, little line, that is really easy, but when some kind of this was fully colored pigment, that won't actually work good. So don't really worry about that. Maybe we should correct it in 2 months. Some little parts should like tone some and nothing else. But I think that everything will be covered actually good. But well, look, I cannot actually show you that like now, because I cannot actually wait 2-3 months and then upload this video. You can look that into my Insta, and probably I'll show you this. Also, there is a thing I'd like to discuss with you. I cannot actually show you on this tattoo. I'll call Lisa here and I'll try to model with markers and other things while covering up. Maybe it will work with you in future and will be really useful for you. That it was demonstrating of another thing, so I'd like to show you another thing. So a couple of things that will make cover-ups. So if you have some kind of like this thing, like small wings like that, it doesn't matter, like little wings here. If I have something black, people usually think that we should take, you know, like this size of tattoo, and people usually want to cover it up to make something, so it's better not to be black like that. So that is the most problematic case, the most troubleshooting. Cover the things. People should think that they can do something really big with a big black bird here to cover it all up, like do this all black. Don't do that, because actually everything you need to put black parts. Only that was black already on your previous tattoo. I'll try to wash it out, wipe. So you had some kind of these two things really black, and you need to delete them to cover them. I'd better cover them to the black really tight, and other things I'll better make some big rose here, for example. I'm not about roses, but just for example, big rose and everything empty, really bright, to pull every attention from the dark. And while you have some kind of, you know, big tattoo, it's better when you have not really much big black parts, so you have to have at least 2-3 little parts. Better to do here some leaves, you know, of these roses, not petals, but leaves, and probably make them really dark, make them really dark green, or just closer to black, to the shadow. So another point here that is not to pull attention from leaves to rows, and to pull all the size of the two you have. Like, you have a couple of things here, and you really need to cover them with something black. For example, like circle, triangle, and square, for example. So in most cases, people would think that they need to cover all this area here with something really black. But actually, you can just pull this area to some, with other darker or brighter kind of, tint. Like, this black point will be the start of your, bigger object that will be graduated with something like space, with stars here. So space is actually mixed with a lot of tints, so you can actually put here some black and pull it to, like dark green, dark blue, like minimize your power and your dark colors. You don't need to cover everything with black, you don't need to block it. You need to pull your attention from it. Covering is not just closing something from the top, it's just pulling attention from what we had and try to make another picture when you had something actually unlucky. We have round and another round here. These are really black, so you can upgrade it to the black, put here a nose, skulls, cheekbones, something like teeth, and that is a kind of skull. Actually, those perfect cases, they are not actually, often in our lives. That is really rarely. It's really difficult to imagine something like that. The most better stuff here to do that is pull and make something bigger from what you had. And here it will be something really bright, coming to the really small piece of black. Maybe some kind of black piece of water with waves, probably some kind of grass, some, greenery around, and that will be like little shadow in this, tree or whatever you want to make there. And probably that will work. Like, and they gradually come into something bright or brighter part. For example, here we have this trunk. Here we make all, general mass much bigger. I always used that when I was trying to make some big cover-ups. I don't like to do the black work, do all this black moments, so usually people make some kind of big bird here with Becker. It's really covered like Raven, but actually we don't need to make it. Or for the biggest joke, like TV screen there. So, that is everything for today. Put your comments under this video if you need to ask any questions, if you want to share your opinion, and bye bye.